Hello everyone, I'm Svet Voloshin, LucidCTA. I'm a Salesforce Certified Technical Architect, and I launched this channel to help folks like you reach the pinnacle of Salesforce certifications and become a CTA. All of this content is free, so your support is crucial. Please kindly take a moment to subscribe and like this video as we get started. This will really help this channel grow, and we'll be able to reach more people, and I will continue putting in additional effort and resources in producing quality content. Thank you very much in advance. In this video, you will see how a true CTA candidate presents a mock and then gets grilled by a judge during the Q&A portion of the board. I am very thankful to Jillian Proia for agreeing to record this and allowing me to post this video so that you would get a glimpse into what it takes to sit for the board. This video was recorded approximately 2 weeks before Jillian went for a retake and is currently expecting the results of her board. If this doesn't scare you off, perhaps you have what it takes to sit for the CTA Review Board. Everyone, myself included, benefits greatly from an experienced professional coach. I derive a lot of satisfaction and pleasure from coaching CTA candidates professionally. If this is of interest to you, please reach out to me via LinkedIn, via email, via Architect Ohana Slack, or via my website, LucidCTA.com, and I'll be happy to chat with you about your journey and whether you and I would be a good match as a coach and a candidate. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the other side of your comfort zone. I am here with Jillian Proia. Jillian is a candidate for CTA. She's going for her board in 10 days. And so she's here to present Constructus Temporary Buildings, which is Andrew Hart's scenario. So Jillian, looking forward to your presentation. So any thoughts before you begin at this point?
I guess I would just like to say that this is my third attempt at the board. I've been studying for 2 years or just over 2 years, so it's been a long journey. And yeah, thank you for your time today, Svet.
Appreciate it. All right, so good luck. I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to go off audio. I'll start the clock on your first word, and all the best. Good luck. This is your old hand at this.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian, and today I'll be presenting the solution for Constructus Temporary Buildings. Constructus is an organization based out of Europe, and they provide both B2B and B2C rentals for basically like semi-permanent buildings and marquees for special events. They do have plans to grow significantly in the next few years, and they want to expand into new markets. And their goals with this Salesforce implementation are to improve their automation, be more efficient in their business processes, and basically just move towards a more modern technology platform and something that's going to be scalable for their growth. I am recommending a single org strategy, and that will be a brand new greenfield org. They are looking for streamlined business processes, and there aren't any known data regulatory constraints that would need a multi-org solution. We'll be utilizing standard Salesforce files with some archiving strategy and Files Connect to access the historic archived files. And our mobile strategy is mobile publisher app for customers, regular Salesforce mobile for internal users, and a field service app for our external contractors. I will mention that I am recommending a centralized center of excellence to oversee the governance for Salesforce, and we'll talk more about how that ties into the requirements as we go. So let's take a look at the system landscape. So we do have some legacy systems that we will be retiring. They have a single region that uses a telephony system that we will be replacing with Service Cloud Voice and Amazon Connect. And their legacy CRM is set to be replaced with Salesforce as well. They have a system called IMS, which is their inventory and maintenance system. We'll be retiring this and doing all of their inventory scheduling for their building assets within Salesforce. I am recommending that we implement a data warehouse to support our archiving strategy. And we will be utilizing Marketing Cloud. And you see Data Cloud in the landscape here because all new sales of Marketing Cloud are on the Data Cloud platform. Within Salesforce itself, we'll be utilizing Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, 2 Experience Cloud sites, one for our customers and one for our engineers who are like our partners, and Field Service. And then from the App Exchange, we'll be utilizing DocuSign and the Declarative Rollup Summary. And then, of course, we have Active Directory, which is their current identity store, and I'm recommending that we implement Azure IDP to act as the enterprise-wide identity provider for Salesforce as well as other systems in the landscape. We'll be using this to support SSO for their ERP system as well. I did note that they have a website, but I didn't see any reason to either integrate this or replace it. So at least for this initial phase of the project, I'm recommending that we just simply keep that in place. And the ERP system will be integrated via ESB for near real-time integrations that are driven by business processes happening in Salesforce. But we also want our users to be able to log in from Salesforce into the ERP without any additional authentication steps. So this is where we'll be able to link to the ERP via a deep link and utilize our IDP and SSO to make that a seamless transition. To justify the use of Marketing Cloud, I just wanted to point out that all of the marketing needs that have been mentioned are truly marketing and not transactional. Therefore, I'm recommending Marketing Cloud instead of internal Salesforce emails. And both our Salesforce mobile, our mobile publisher app, and our field service application will support media uploads, photo uploads into Salesforce, which is a recurring requirement. Taking a look at our ERD, you can note that we are utilizing a mostly private sharing model. So unless it's otherwise noted, all of these objects are org-wide default of private. And we do have several record types for account. We'll be using person accounts for our individual customers, business accounts to represent the corporations that we sell into, and also a third record type for depots. Depots are the locations where we store our inventory, our assets that we rent out. And so those depots will have the assets linked to them. All right. Let's start talking about the sales and marketing business process requirements. So again, we are utilizing Marketing Cloud with Data Cloud. Data Cloud is going to basically act as the data source to pull in data from both Salesforce and maybe any other systems that will help support the marketing segmentation. And we're going to be utilizing the standard sales objects to support sales and marketing. So we'll be going through typical opportunity flows to determine what we're selling to our customers or renting to our customers. They'll be quoting and ultimately orders. And I'm also recommending some custom objects over here in the blue to support product bundling. While this is available in like CPQ type Salesforce products or Revenue Cloud, being that this was the only requirement that hinted towards CPQ, we're better off going custom than a full Revenue Cloud implementation. So Marketing Cloud will send out communications and basically manage any cold leads, and then it will create leads that are ready to be processed by the sales team in Salesforce. Our sales reps are going to be getting Sales Cloud licensing, and they will work those leads and set up a visit to make sure that the lead fully is qualified and to understand their needs. So the leads will initially get assigned to a regional queue, and then they'll schedule directly using standard activity in Salesforce, at which point they can convert the lead to an account, contact, and opportunity. The sales reps will coordinate with the operations team, which we'll talk about in a minute, for some compliance checks. And the sales reps will also evaluate the location and see if there are any permits that are required. They are looking for a more robust process in place to make sure that this step is maybe more automated and that it's not skipped. So I'm going to assume here that APIs are available via the public permitting systems. And so whenever a new opportunity is created, we'll have a record triggered flow that creates a platform event, and that will initiate a fire and forget integration pattern using the PubSub API. Our ESB will pick up that information, and it will coordinate with the permitting system to determine if a permit is required, and then do a remote call-in once it gets that information via REST API to update a custom field on the opportunity that indicates it's either required, not required, and then eventually a user can update that to approved or denied. Reps are going to take pictures of the construction area on their phones, and right now they email these to the operations team. I'm recommending that they just use their standard mobile app to upload photos to the account record that represents the location, and the ops can access those files via the Salesforce record rather than via email. Our sales reps are also going to work with team leaders. Our team leaders are getting this is a mistake. I think they should be getting Sales and Service Cloud here. And the team leaders can be added to the opportunity team so that they can discuss and share information and support the sales cycle. The structures that we are selling or renting vary in size. And so we are storing our basically building types as products. And I'm recommending that we have a price book per region so that we can have different pricing structures depending on the location. And we'll also have products for services. So assembly, disassembly, etc. Those will be stored as products. There is the need to bundle products. So sometimes there might be like chairs and tables that go along with one of our setups. And this needs to be considered when all of the pricing is being taken place. So these custom objects will help indicate if there is simply a product that is related to another product, we'll utilize the related product object. Or if there are true bundles of products that should be sold together, they can be grouped into a product bundle via the product bundle member junction. So along with these custom objects, I'm recommending a custom screen flow on opportunity to guide the user through adding the products. And then it will also display related products and product bundles for them to optionally add. So there's nothing that is enforcing that they get added, but it is going to help the sales rep so that they don't miss anything, basically. Today, sales reps sketch the layout and email this to the customers, but we want something more sophisticated. So I'm recommending that they create the digital rendering of the layout, maybe using something like Lucid, and then saving that as a PDF and attaching it to the opportunity as a Salesforce file. At which point it can be emailed and shared with other team members as needed within Salesforce. We do need to allow sales reps to apply discounts. My assumption here is that and the discounts are controlled by the account. So my assumption is that this requirement means that we should have a custom field on the account, and then a permission set for just certain users to be able to manage this maximum discount allowed for the account. Sales reps will create the quote and apply the discount, and then we'll have a validation rule on the quote to make sure that they're not going over that maximum that's set at the account level. If they do need to go over, we will have a standard approval process that can hand it off to a team member who can bypass that validation. There are daily rates for some of these rentals, and those prices for things like assembly and daily rates are going to be listed on the product, and they'll also be itemized as a quote line item right through the price book entry. So we'll be able to quote or estimate based on the number of days of the rental through the quantity fields what that daily rate is going to add up to. Once the quote is agreed upon, we'll capture a signature via a DocuSign process. And now it's time to hand this off to operations to reserve the equipment. So the receipt of that electronic signature will update the quote status, and a record triggered flow is going to create the order, which is now ready to be synced to the ERP. So the ERP is going to continue to manage invoicing and billing, and therefore we need to get this data in there. We'll have a record triggered flow on the creation of the order that creates a platform event, and via a fire and forget integration pattern, the ESB will be subscribed to that event channel, and we'll probably have to do an additional remote call-in to get the full payload of data because we're looking at multiple order line items related to that order. And then it will send the order to the ERP. Upon success, it will get the order ID back, and it will end this integration with a remote call-in back into Salesforce to write the order ID back onto the order record in Salesforce so that we have that synced with the ERP for future integration purposes. Moving on to our operations team. So operations is really going to manage the scheduling of our assets. So reserving things like our buildings. I did look at Salesforce Scheduler data model to support this because you can assign an asset just like you can assign a user as a service resource. So instead of scheduling appointments with a person, you can schedule appointments with an asset. But then we do have additional requirements that led me to utilize field service licensing, and the field service data model and the Salesforce scheduler data model are basically one and the same. So we are, because of the licensing, we just need the field service licensing to be able to achieve the scheduling that we're about to discuss. Field service is also going to support our contractors who are doing on-site service. Maintenance schedules is another key reason why we chose to go with field service. They'll get the mobile app on the road, and there will be some complex scheduling both for the assets but as well as for our contractors who are getting dispatched to go out and do the maintenance that we're just about to discuss. So operations will start by carrying out some credit checks on new customers, and we do have ratings agencies that can help us get this data. So they're only the credit checks are only needed on new customers. Therefore, we'll have a single field on the account record. This can be either manually updated when there isn't an API available for that region, or it can be populated via a fire and forget integration pattern whenever a new account is created. The ESB will be notified. It will make a call out to the credit check systems. It will do the appropriate data orchestration based on region to identify which system it should be calling out to. And then the ESB will likely have to do an hourly check to see if any credit check information is when the result is ready, basically. And then once it receives that result, it will do an update in Salesforce to update that account field. Our operations team is now going to start doing the actual scheduling of the asset. So during the sales process, we're identifying what types of products are being rented, but we're not specifying the exact asset that they're reserving. So that's this step here. The asset will be linked as a service resource, and we will utilize this suite of objects here, the field service / Salesforce scheduler objects, to create a service appointment that represents the reservation for that asset, and it will be linked to the customer or the customer account via the appointment attendee object. So although the names of these objects are slightly off, the concept and the business process is perfect for this use case. The operations team will be able to check if the assets are available or if they're already booked on the dates that they want. So typically what we see with a Salesforce scheduler implementation is that all of these objects are supported by guided screen flows. So the user is going to utilize a screen flow that does a lot of the filtering and the querying of all of these objects to determine which assets based on product type and location are available and ultimately create the necessary service appointment record. So they'll be able to first check the region where the customer account is, and then if it's nothing available there, the screen flow can guide them to check other regions as well. They sometimes have to create a procurement order. So we are going to use the order object for this, and we'll have two different record types, one that represents customer purchases and one that represents our internal procurement orders, because we will have different stages and different business processes that justify these record types. We will link the order for procurement to the depot account, and we'll also use the related order lookup to link it to the customer's order as well, so that we know that procurement is supporting the order. And then once everything is finalized, the order status is confirmed and everything is reserved as assets, we will create the work order. And the work order is going to support the construction, basically the assembly of the project. These assets also have maintenance schedules. So as part of our field service licensing, the maintenance plan object and maintenance plan asset object that links it to the asset are going to be utilized, where we can set up rules and it can help automate the scheduling of the work orders for the maintenance. We need to determine who's going to be maintaining our assets based on their skill sets, in addition to location and availability. So we'll be using the skill requirement object and the skills that are linked to service resources. Our external employees who are contract engineers, they will be service resources, and they'll be CC Plus licensed with the field service add-on. And so that way we can track their skills and use skill-based assignment And they'll also be able to get an Experience Cloud site and the Field Service mobile app to share the work order data that's assigned to them, and so they can see their upcoming schedules. So maintenance is carried out at the depot where the asset is stored. So therefore, assets are owned by the depot account, and scheduling is always going to be done through those screen flows that I had mentioned. So when there is maintenance scheduled or coming up on a date where maybe someone wants to reserve that asset, the screen flows are going to take that into account, so that they can be filtered out and kind of basically marked as unavailable for scheduling if they are due for maintenance. All right, so next in the process is the actual assembly of our assets. So again, I mentioned the work order is going to support basically the assembly and disassembly of the project. And we're also using a custom object called inspection to support some of the integration with our safety system. And this business process will also be rather heavy on case management. So you'll see we're utilizing a lot of standard Service Cloud objects here, where we can track issues or damage that occurs during construction or the rentals. So our team leaders are going to have full visibility onto what is sold, and they're going to be the owner of the work order. So based on the work order and the work order line items, they'll have everything that they need to see what was sold. They are going to double check the inventory and confirm estimates for delivery. So this means they need access to the depot, the asset, and the appointment record. And that will all be done via sharing rules, where our depot and our assets are going to be criteria-based sharing, since those can actually be basically public for all of our internal users. They will carry out a site inspection and take photos that previously were emailed in, but now we're going to recommend using the Salesforce mobile app and upload the photos onto the work order. They will check off the inventory as it's delivered. So all of the inventory is going to be itemized as work order line items. And so they'll have a running list of that. And they'll be able to create cases if there's any issues or damage. And I am recommending a custom lookup from our case to the work order. Did I get that right? Yeah, so that they can be linked and you know what the case is related to. They will complete all inspections and tests based on our safety first system. So again, the safety system is something that is already in the system landscape that they use to determine different types of inspections based on different products and different assembly methods that they're using for that customer. So we will be integrating with that system whenever the work order status is updated to represent the state that it's basically ready. It has all of the work order line items on it. The Salesforce will create a platform event. Again, this common integration pattern where we'll use fire and forget. We don't need the user to wait for an immediate response, so fire and forget is the appropriate pattern here. The ESB will do a remote call-in to get the full payload of all of the work order line items that are to be installed and any other data that it needs to send to the safety system, get the necessary inspection requirements, and then do another remote call-in via REST API to create our custom inspection records related to the work order. Next, they'll do a readiness review. So the sales rep and the customer together will basically just go through everything that was done and maybe create another list of issues if there are any which will be tracked as cases. Once all of those cases are closed, there will be a sign-off step, so a record-triggered flow on our work order status update. We'll fire off another DocuSign process so the customer confirm that everything meets their requirements. And then there's going to be a second work order, basically for every job, so that when the time comes, they can also disassemble all of the equipment that was set up. This will also require sign-off so that they can confirm that the site was cleared. So another DocuSign process. And again, cases if there are any damages to equipment or anything like that. And at this point, if there are damages and that case is processed and assessed to be something that we need to charge the customer for, then we'll integrate that with the ERP for invoicing. Invoices are, again, going to be mastered in the ERP, but we can surface them in Salesforce as an external object so that our internal users have insight into that when they're processing cases. So to send the data to the ERP, we'll have another fire and forget integration pattern, which will be triggered by a record triggered flow on the case to send that data to the ERP. And for our external object, we're looking at a data virtualization integration pattern using the OData 4.01 API. And our ESB will be able to support the protocol conversion necessary, and it will also, our invoice object will have an indirect lookup using an external unique ID so that we can link it to the customer account. So if there is significant damage, there's some considerations for future sales where we might want to implement additional approvals before that customer can rent more equipment from us. So there will be a before save record triggered flow on opportunity that will throw a custom validation error message. So it's going to check to see if there are related records prior to the opportunity stage change. And if there are related cases that indicate significant damage, it will prevent the opportunity stage from moving to close one, and it will have to go through an approval process. Finally, we'll do a final invoice once the entire booking is complete. So when the disassembly work order is complete, we'll use that same integration pattern as above to send data to the ERP to indicate that final invoice for the full order and work orders should be processed. Customers do have some options when it comes to customer service levels. So this is where we're going to be utilizing entitlements and milestones. So we'll be able to indicate what level of customer service that customer has purchased. There are 3 levels, bronze, silver, and gold. Bronze is going to be our standard. And then if they purchase an upgrade of silver and gold, we'll apply that as an entitlement record. And we can set rules so that the appropriate milestones are applied to the cases that they submit. Customers can reach out for support via email or phone. So we'll implement email to case, as well as Service Cloud Voice with Amazon Connect, which we previously mentioned as a replacement to the existing telephony system. But I'm also recommending here that we add some functionality on a customer experience cloud so that they can create cases via the portal and try to get away from too much email. Most of these cases are technical, but some of them are complaints about things like payment, which is a justification for having the invoices available as an external object in Salesforce. For these cases, we want to have like tightened up security. So we'll have a sensitive indicator on the case record that indicates that these need a special type of sharing. So I'm actually going to skip down to our visibility and security section to talk more about that. Service agents can see all customer data, right? Accounts and contacts, except if they are VIP, and this needs to be a special subset of users. So let's just talk through our customer account is of course going to be private org-wide default. And then there will be a criteria-based sharing rule if VIP is false, where we share those customer accounts with all users. And if it is true, then we only share with a specific public group, and that public group represents these users who are qualified for the VIP. And then that brings us on to our cases. So case will also be private. If VIP is on the account is false and the sensitive indicator is also false, a criteria-based sharing rule can share it with all users. But then we'll have criteria-based sharing with, again, public groups if VIP is true or sensitive is true. There are some suggestions that we do not want to rely on a role hierarchy because it is not automatically assumed that, say, for example, a sales rep's manager should have visibility into all of their records. It is actually optional. They may share with their team leaders, but it's not automatic. So that's why I haven't utilized a role hierarchy here, and I'm utilizing public groups instead, especially for cases because we cannot uncheck that grant hierarchy, grant access through the role hierarchy checkbox because it's standard. So we're relying on public groups otherwise. The opportunities will be private, and our sales reps will be the owner of the opportunities, and they can just use manual sharing to share with their team leaders. Operations should get visibility into the opportunities based on region. So a criteria-based sharing rule, one for each region that's also filtered by opportunity stage, will allow us to do that. Operations can see the assets and inventory maintenance schedules. So this is not a sharing requirement, but just a object level access that will be granted via a permission set to the maintenance schedule related objects. Our team leaders need to be able to see the booking information and all of the asset details. So they'll get the appropriate licensing to access all of our, actually this is where the Salesforce scheduler license should be listed. Our team leaders do not need field service. So we can just give them Salesforce scheduler licenses, which are a lot less expensive and less robust, but that will allow them to see the necessary data in the shared data model between those two features. And then the asset is, of course, controlled by the depot account, the parent, and we'll have a criteria-based sharing rule to share the depot accounts so that the team leaders can see all of those. And they will get view all access via a permission set on the service appointments and any related records. Payment details, or our external invoice object, will be provided to the operations team only, and that will be a permission set for object level access. Customers need to be able to see their booking history and raise cases through the website. So this is where their Experience Cloud site comes in, and they will have implicit sharing because they will have the contact on the case populated. So if they are the contact on the case, they automatically will get access to their case records. and we will have some sharing sets to share the appointment records with them. For reporting, our accounts summary needs to summarize cases, bookings, and opportunities. So my interpretation of this is that we want counts of these things per account record. So I'm recommending a roll-up for each of these on the account record, but we can't use standard roll-ups. So I'm recommending the declarative roll-up summary that will help us roll up, say, for example, service appointments onto the account. We can use a standard Salesforce report to report on accounts with maintenance plans and maintenance plan assets to be able to see upcoming maintenance schedules. And a standard report on assets with filters on created date to see assets that are over 5 years old. Our operations team want to see high-risk customers who have had damage. So that will be a standard report, accounts with cases. And our operations team needs to access all of our archived pictures in context. In context, I'm assuming means related to the appropriate account or opportunity, etc. So let's talk a little bit about our solution for files and our data requirements here. So there are an estimated 6 million, oh, sorry, that's the wrong number. There are an estimated number of files in the old system that come out to about 400 gigabytes of data. And I'm estimating with all of our new files per year, we're looking at over a terabyte of data. So if we were to go the route of just standard Salesforce files, we would be over the limit, but I am recommending that we use standard Salesforce files for open work orders, open opportunities, etc., that we do not migrate all of the historic ones into Salesforce, but rather we archive them and we implement an archiving process that will continuously move them as those opportunities and work orders close. So this migration process will require that there is some preparation to make sure that all of the files are organized in a way that can be accessed via the ETL, and we'll move them using REST API since they are non-binary files. The volume requirements for archiving led us to recommend Files Connect so that Salesforce users can still access the archived files from the Salesforce records. Other data requirements are related to customer data. We have our CRM, but we also have a lot of data that's just stored in Outlook and Excel. So we'll have to have a parallel initiative to prepare legacy data. The Outlook data will need to be moved into Excel or CRM. Excel needs to be cleansed and standardized prior to migration, and the business users who own the data should be guided by a data steward. So this is one place where our Center of Excellence comes into play, where a data governance team will set into place those standards that need to be utilized for the migration. And then we'll use an ETL process to identify duplicates based on fuzzy logic, looking at name, website, and email, and merge data from multiple sources, our ERP, our Excel, and CRM, which means we'll probably have to do some write backs to the ERP if we make changes to certain data points. And we also have to migrate data from our inventory management system. This is where we have about 6 million historic bookings, so I am recommending that we archive a lot of this data into our data warehouse rather than migrating directly into Salesforce. But for active and open records, we will migrate via ETL to create depots, assets, service appointments, etc. And I'm assuming there is a common customer ID between the ERP and the IMS systems that will help support this migration. We are still looking at large data volume for bookings if we look across 5 years of use of the system. So we'll also be implementing an archiving strategy here for completed bookings. They will move into our data warehouse. And lastly, we can talk about our project and development requirements. We do have some initiatives to minimize code errors and ensure code quality. We also want to talk about ways we can encourage adoption and basically just understand the responsibilities of the project team members. So within the Center of Excellence that we mentioned, we'll have architecture and development standards that are defined, and environment strategy, and a DevOps strategy that is followed by all team members. The environment strategy or the DevOps strategy will implement a code review process so that the architect will approve any code that is getting merged to a certain branch, and we'll also implement some automated code reviews via GearSet. I'm recommending an Agile Scrum methodology to really deeply involve stakeholders in refining requirements, getting them involved in testing, and getting them frequent demos. This is going to give them ownership over the project and the ultimate Salesforce product, which will really drive adoption. And we can also implement an adoption dashboard within Salesforce once we're live. And lastly, the RACI matrix is a really good tool to make sure that we are communicating with all of our stakeholders at the beginning of the project, the appropriate responsibilities of all of the team members. We are looking to show progress fairly quickly on this project. So I'm recommending demos every sprint to keep our leadership team apprised of the progress, and we can also do frequent release schedules to our production org to work towards an MVP. Our team is new to Salesforce, but they want to be self-sufficient and be able to support the application within 12 months. So for the initial project, I am recommending that they rely on implementation partner for that initial development, that they can include their internal devs in QA and eventually in development as they continue to learn Salesforce. And we are building a scalable system that will be able to evolve in taking on new markets, supporting different languages and currencies. So we can, when the time comes and we need to do that, we can enable multi-language and multi-currency features. And within our Center of Excellence, there should be a change management team that really documents standard processes and training so that when we onboard these other markets, that is a standard and smooth process. And that ends my presentation. I couldn't see the timer, so I was just going for it. What's the time?
You ran over by 1 minute.
Oh, that's not too bad. If I could see it, I probably would have skipped a few things. Okay.
Well, you definitely need to see it on the exam. That's what matters.
I know that was my bad. I should have realized I couldn't see it when we started, but that's all right.
Okay. Well, let me see. Will you be able to see it for the Q&A portion?
So it's on your screen?
Well, it's on my screen, but you should be able to have one for your screen as well.
Yeah, let me start mine. I told you I'm just so out of it. When you said you were setting your timer, I was like, oh, I don't have to do mine. So stupid.
It typically doesn't, like the smart countdown timer doesn't show up necessarily. Put it on 40. On Zoom, but you should still have it. Yeah, there we go. 40 minutes.
Okay. And if I minimize it, oh wait, how'd that happen?
Yeah,
Boy,
I'm familiar with this particular program.
there we go.
Okay.
And I can see it up here now. Okay.
Okay. So, shall we start with the Q&A or do you need the break?
I'm ready. We can go right into it.
All right. So, Jillian, let's go over some of the project risks over here. So you jump straight into the CI/CD pipelines, etc. And so the code quality issues, what is this a symptom of?
I'd
You,
say that this is a symptom of not having the appropriate processes in place for previous projects, and specifically not having, like, I would assume, a DevOps process that implements things like code reviews, code quality checks, etc.
okay, so specifically, which tool would be responsible for code quality checks and where do you actually do the code review?
Yeah, so I would recommend using GearSet. And GearSet can automate code quality checks that you have basically defined, but it also has standard ones built in. And it would be when the developer is merging their code into the feature integration branch.
Does GearSet have these branches or there's some other system that takes care of that?
Yeah, GearSet would be working with a repo like GitHub.
Okay, gotcha. And so GearSet uses what kind of code review systems? It's one type, multiple types? What's it called?
Um, it has some built-in code review that is just native to GearSet
Mhm.
for like really like basic checks on Apex code and things like that. But you could also add additional like plugins and add-ons to GearSet if you want to.
Does it only catch Apex or errors, or what about declarative automation?
Um, it will not do any out of the box. It will not do any code quality checks on things like flows or anything like that. So that's why I'm also recommending that there is like a process step here where an architect will also provide some oversight into what is getting merged into the feature integration branch.
Wouldn't the architect then become a bottleneck for this particular process if they have to check every flow manually?
Um, Yeah, so it could be the architect or a senior developer. And that's just something that we would have to work through in terms of um, identifying responsibilities and bandwidth and things like that.
Mhm. Okay. Now, the developers, first of all, tell me about your environment strategy. Where would the environments, which environment would be responsible for what?
Yeah, so I would recommend that our developers are working in dev or scratch orgs, depending on what they're working on. Of course, if they're doing mostly declarative development, they'll be working in a dev org. Um, when those features are ready to be merged into a feature integration branch, that would be a dev pro sandbox where those things will get tested. And then there will be a partial sandbox uh, for more functional testing, QA, and system integration testing, and then finally a full sandbox for UAT prior to going into production.
Okay. So UAT by users is actually done in the full copy sandbox. Okay. Is there any kind of a refresh strategy for these environments?
So this is a greenfield implementation approach, right? So we will be doing our data migration into the full copy sandbox, and we will be releasing all of our metadata into the full copy sandbox prior to any of it moving into production. But then when we are ready for like a final end-to-end testing, at that point, we can do a refresh of the full copy sandbox to make sure it is an exact replica of production for the final prior to go live, basically. Because you can only refresh a full sandbox every 30 days.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So first you do a full data migration into the full copy sandbox. For what purpose? Why not straight to production?
So we want to be able to do all of our data validation, testing, etc., in a sandbox rather than production. Because if things go terribly wrong, it's not always really easy to mass delete data. It's much easier to just scrap the sandbox if it goes poorly.
And how would you prevent it from going poorly or horribly wrong?
Yeah, so our data migration is not going to start in the full copy sandbox. We'll have smaller subsets of data that are migrated into the partial copy prior to all of this to basically identify any issues with data mapping, data quality, but it just will not be the full load until we get to full sandbox.
Okay. Do you have a data migration diagram anywhere?
I do not, but I can speak through it.
Okay. So what kind of data are you migrating and from what system?
Yeah, so we're migrating customer data from Outlook, Excel, our legacy system, our legacy CRM system, as well as our ERP. So data from those three systems will be merged and deduplicated during an ETL process.
So what kind of data is coming out of Outlook?
Yeah, so it alluded to customer data in Outlook. So my recommendation here is that there's some preparation of that data, manual preparation of that data prior to our data migration. The business users who own that data in Outlook will have to put it in a format, either Excel or in the legacy CRM that can be accessed for data migration. So I'm assuming it's just like customer and prospect names, emails, maybe there's tracking things like addresses and phone numbers.
So why not just integrate with Outlook? Is that possible?
I would recommend an integration via the standard Outlook connector once we're live to encourage users to sync their emails and create contacts. But since we want to, for this initial migration, do some data cleansing and deduplication, I wouldn't recommend directly having them move that Outlook data into Salesforce.
And this cleansing and deduplication process, like, how would that work and what system would be responsible for that?
Yeah, we would move data from those source systems into staging tables, basically. And then there would be processes that occur there facilitated by the ETL tool to transform the data and move it eventually into a canonical data model that's ready for Salesforce.
And how does deduplication actually work?
So since we're doing it in the ETL, we will have to define rules where we can run basically fuzzy logic type matching.
Mhm.
And so we're going to have basically custom scripts that run to do this deduplication and move data into merged records.
What are you matching on?
I'm recommending things like name, email, website for customer data. We'll probably have slightly different rules for business customers versus individual people.
Okay, so we've got the various legacy systems, and do you assume that there will be duplicates between those systems, or how do we know to relate the phone numbers in the legacy telephony to the folks who are stored in the legacy CRM? Um,
Um,
how
based
do you
on
maintain those? I'm sorry, how do you maintain those relationships, and how do you preserve them when you migrate them into Salesforce?
the, can you rephrase the question?
So let's assume that there's a legacy CRM where the accounts and contacts, so the information about your customers is stored. And telephony is one of those that, let's assume, has a call pop. When the call comes in on then you have the information about that client, and the legacy CRM can log some basic information about the phone call. So that means that there should be probably some sort of relationship between those two systems. How do you transfer that successfully into Salesforce?
Um, so we can probably assume that there's some sort of shared IDs if a customer exists in the legacy telephony system and also the legacy CRM system. Um, so
Okay,
we
got it, got it. All right, and so taking a look at your system landscape. So you're introducing a data warehouse. So data ware, which one are you picking and why?
um,
What's the best data warehouse to use with Salesforce?
I would recommend using Snowflake.
Mhm.
Snowflake has some really robust features and some tight integrations with Data Cloud. So although Data Cloud is not like a central part of our solution today, it's really just here to act as the foundation for Marketing Cloud. Choosing Snowflake could be a really scalable solution in the future.
Okay. And so you did mention Marketing Cloud being integrated via Data Cloud with Salesforce, but then I don't think I caught your reasoning behind transactional emails, such as, confirmations, let's say approval process notification goes out, maybe communication with clients directly from Salesforce. Are you running all those emails through Marketing Cloud, or how is that done?
No, that might not have been clear. So Marketing Cloud is strictly utilized for marketing purposes, non-transactional emails. So if there are small things that need to go out, like, hey, your case has been created, here's your case number, those would continue to be standard Salesforce emails.
Gotcha. And if we look at your data model, so how do you run your marketing campaigns and how does this information end up in Salesforce core?
Yeah, so I did consider utilizing the campaign objects, but based on the requirements, I didn't see that as being necessary. So Marketing Cloud is going to manage all of our marketing campaigns. and will be able to report off of those campaigns directly through Marketing Cloud and Data Cloud. So Marketing Cloud, when a prospect meets some sort of criteria, such as they clicked on an email, they showed some level of interest, they filled out a web form. At that point, Marketing Cloud would create them as a lead in Salesforce to be processed by the sales team.
Okay, so how does the Marketing Cloud actually create a lead in Salesforce?
So Data Cloud can facilitate the actions and use the Marketing Cloud data to create the record.
Okay, and I can see here in this requirement that you're currently looking at, so some of these inquiries will lead to successful deals. So what does that mean exactly, and how do we track that?
Yeah, so that would simply just be the lead conversion into an opportunity. So within Salesforce, we would be able to track converted leads and which of those converted leads led to a closed won opportunity.
And then if you want to relate back to, let's say, an opportunity results in a successful sale, uh, how would you relate that to the campaign to decide if that campaign was successful indeed or not?
The campaign source will be written to the lead record.
Campaign source is written to the lead record, which has already been converted, right?
When the lead was created, it would be populated.
Okay, well, let's say Marketing Cloud creates the lead. Lead is then converted to account contact opportunity. Opportunity goes through its sales process, closed won. It results in it's a really, let's say, big amount of a contract. Then we're going back to campaigns, which you say are stored in Marketing Cloud. We want to analyze which campaigns were successful versus not successful so that we can decide if we want to run similar campaign in the future. So how do we report on that? How do we analyze that data?
So we could tackle this a couple different ways. One would be for Marketing Cloud to also sync to campaign records in Salesforce. So we would go that approach if we wanted to be able to report off of this directly in like standard Salesforce reports. And you could use things like campaign influence if you wanted a multi-touch like level attribution. But then the other option here would be Data Cloud, right? So Data Cloud is also going to be able to have data streams of our Salesforce data. It will be able to tell us and basically like join all of our opportunity and sales data with the Marketing Cloud data in a centralized place that can be used for analytics.
Mhm. Understood. All right. So I see you you're modeling the depot as an account. So you've got the business account, person account, as well as the depot. Help me understand, is it one depot per company?
So the depots are our internal facilities where we store all of our inventory. I think it was stated that there are 10. Each of our offices has a depot, and then there are 7 additional ones. So 10 total depots. And so the reasoning behind tracking them as an account is so that we can utilize the standard functionality for tracking assets and dispatching team members for maintenance and things like that.
Mhm. So how do you then separate the depots as accounts from business and person accounts?
Do you mean from a sharing perspective?
Even from identifying that within the CRM. Like I'm
Uh,
looking at an account, how do I know that this is a depot versus business or person account?
So given three separate record types, we can use those record types to control what fields are displayed on the pages and also filter them from certain lookups if it's not appropriate, like for a,
No, I understand that part.
okay.
Okay, so it says here that each office has a depot attached. So then how do you model the office?
I didn't find it necessary to model the office as a record. It could be a field on the depot record if we wanted to just itemize that.
Mhm.
But the depot itself is the important entity.
All right. So over there it says each of the 10 depots employs 50 staff and 10 leaders and 40 laborers. So that's how do you know who is assigned to what particular depot?
Um, so
And
these are internal staff members.
mhm.
Um, and based on things like the processes that they're doing for sales and customers and the sharing requirements, I did not find it necessary to link our internal staff members to the depots. It does not support any requirements that I can tell.
Okay, so of these staff members, who requires access to Salesforce?
The team leaders do. The laborers, I did not give any licenses to. My assumption here is that they work under direction of the team leaders, but do not need to access Salesforce.
All right. So, but you're using field service lightning. I understand that the part of that was to schedule assets, or is that Salesforce scheduler? So you're using those together, right?
The
Field
field
service line.
service is to support the maintenance plans
Hmm.
for the assets, um, as well as the skill tracking for our external contractors so that they can get assigned appropriately to the work orders.
Okay. Uh, so these external contractors, are they laborers or are these some other people?
I interpret those as being completely separate um, people, where our laborers are internal, but then we also have contract engineers.
Okay, so we're tracking the customers, we're tracking the users that actually have to have system license, but the laborers are not tracked at all.
Correct.
Do you see a problem with that, perhaps?
I don't, unless I'm missing something. I saw no requirements related to laborers.
I just kind of wonder if somehow we need to track their availability because,
It
uh,
is not anticipated that they'll need system access.
sure, but you'll
Um,
still need to perform some sort of a function in because there are physical assets that are involved here. So where would you place the laborers if I told you that we just need to track their skills and availability and also disciplinary records, things of that nature?
okay, yeah, we could track them as service resources
Mhm.
so that they would still be able to be taken into account for um, if they needed to be tracked as scheduling availability. Um,
All right. Now, let's take a look at the sales requirements. So if you could scroll down to sales two, I think there may be some mismatch in, so I'll do my best here. So sales two is when new customer will coordinate to ensure account is viable. What does that mean exactly?
so it referred down to C operations. So I'm assuming that this means the step when we do the credit checks.
Mhm.
So the credit check process is actually explained down here, where our operations team will know if a credit check is required based on our integration, but then they will ultimately process the credit check and update that field on the account.
Oh, so viability then depends on the result of the credit check.
Correct.
Okay. And so what exactly is the trigger to say it's viable versus not viable?
So what I'm gathering is that we need a process to know if, let me think about this. This is currently process. External suppliers to get a credit rating.
What does the credit check system return?
So the credit check system is returning a rating. So that's going to be a single field on the account that gets updated.
Okay, so the rating is what, like is high, medium, low? Um,
Like I have a 700 credit
oh, it's
score,
based on the score. Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in the following requirement, you're saying that you're reaching out to the permitting system to advise you whether or not the permit is needed in a particular case.
Mm-hmm.
So are we assuming that the permitting system is actually capable of that? What if it's just a matter of filing the permit and tracking its stage? What if the permitting system is not smart enough to tell you that, the permit is required in this particular case versus not? That sounds almost like an AI type functionality. How
Yeah,
good
let me
is
just
that requirement?
reread. Uh, um, so if we could simply submit a permit request to one of these external systems, that is something that we could also support if that's what these systems support. It would still be a similar process. However, we would probably need, I would probably recommend a related object to support it if that is the process, because I think a lot of times you might need to make multiple requests, etc. So if that's the path that we want to go down, I would update the ERD to add a custom object called permit request related to the account. And then the team member, the sales rep, would create those records as needed, populate the appropriate information, and then an integration would send that request to the permitting systems.
So the permit is required for the construction of a particular building. So yet here we're relating a permit just to an account. How do we model the buildings actually?
You're right. Sorry, I misspoke. It should be related to the job, and at this point in the sales process, it's on the opportunity itself.
Hmm.
And the opportunity will have custom fields of information that indicate the specifics of the location.
I understand the location, that's just the address, maybe geographic coordinates. However, like what if the opportunity is responsible for multiple buildings? How do we model that?
Um,
Because then we have to maintain them and so on, right? And
yeah. So I'm working under the assumption here that there will be one opportunity per location.
one opportunity per location. And the actual temporary building is tracked how? Or modeled how, I should say.
Opportunity products. So
Mhm.
that you could assemble two buildings on one property.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
possibly what you're getting at is for two buildings on one property, you might need two permits.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe they're just different types of buildings. So at any rate,
Mm.
currently, you see they are doing this manually, and it's a discretionary decision. So I'm just thinking if this whole system goes down, we're relying on government permitting systems. They may or may not be reliable. Do we really need this integration here?
It does feel like we need a lot more information about what these systems are capable of and what they're looking to automate. Um, if ulti- if ultimately these systems cannot accept a permit request, then or tell us when permits are required and when they're not, then an integration probably does not make sense.
Hmm.
Other ways that we could maybe make this a more robust process without integration um, would be simply assuming that there is some level of permitting required for every opportunity and preventing that opportunity stage from progressing until the internal user has indicated either that the permit is accepted or that it is not required.
Okay, okay. Uh, let's go to case management. So, the very first requirement I wanted to check on the visibility of things. That would be not the service and life care, but before that, I believe there's case management. Yeah.
Got it.
So allocated team leader needs to have full visibility of what was sold. Um, so what does that mean exactly? What is the team leader responsible for?
The team leader is overseeing the construction, basically. The work order represents the assembly and disassembly construction. And
Mhm.
so, as the owner of the work order, they'll be able to see any required information about the account, and each work order line item will indicate all of the products that were rented and need to be assembled.
So what was sold indicates to me that they need to actually take a look at that deal itself, which is probably tracked in an opportunity, right? Maybe a contract.
Yes, or ultimately it's an order. So if anything, I would give them access to the finalized order rather than the opportunity. Um,
Hmm.
so when the order is finalized, um, we could implement, they have to identify the team leader and assign them to the work order. So they could also assign them to the completed confirmed order.
In this IMS system that they're using, is this something we're keeping or
Retiring.
retiring? Okay. So the inventory then is going to be stored where exactly? Because they're supposed to check for inventory, are they not?
Yeah, so my interpretation of inventory is the existence of assets at a depot and whether those assets are scheduled or available for the dates of the rental. And so that's all facilitated through the existence of all the service appointment records. And it's filtered in a way that makes it user-friendly through the screen flow so that they can easily see the inventory for a given date.
Right. Okay. So the asset is something that basically is rented out and then returned to the warehouse. Do we have any consumables, things that once they're used, they're discarded?
It was stated that most assets are used about 15 times before they're retired.
And okay. And then all of that is possible to track on an asset object.
Um, Yes. So I would assume that during things like maintenance processes, that the engineers would determine when the appropriate time for retiring an asset is, and they would indicate that on the asset record.
At the time of the sale, whoever is selling, right, they're populating the opportunity with products, basically as line opportunity line items. Uh, is the system smart enough to check and see if these assets are actually available for the particular time when they're scheduled to be used?
No. And it was indicated that that is not the desire, because even if they're not available, they will go out and procure the necessary equipment. So during the sales process, they don't care. We don't care about availability.
Okay. And in terms of procurement, so where would you be tracking that information? Just to say how much they're spending on, purchasing these assets.
So procurement orders will be tracked as a type of order record
Hmm.
owned by the, or I should say, the parent account will be the depot record that where we want to purchase that inventory for. And it will be linked to the customer purchase order via a related order so that we know that it is reliant on that procurement.
Hmm. And so at the end of the day, they need to get paid. So the invoice is issued, I'm assuming, by is it the ERP?
Yes. So the procurement would be another integration point for sure with the ERP.
Okay, so you're creating invoices in the ERP and then virtualizing them in Salesforce. What about the line items for those invoices?
Um, So based on what we need to see in Salesforce, the invoice data is strictly just informational for our users who are kind of helping to support customer questions through cases. So my assumption was that we just needed a summary of the invoice. Um, if we needed invoice line items, it would be a second external object related to invoice.
So suppose I'm a very particular customer that needs a detailed breakdown, so I'm asking for the line items. For you, if you're modeling that as an external object, what's the relationship between the invoice and invoice line items?
Yeah, so we would have an external lookup there. So the ERP would provide a unique identifier, a unique ID for the invoice, and then the invoice line item would would be related to the invoice based on that external ID.
Okay, so do, 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 do. And for maintenance, so you've got the entitlements, you've got the milestones. Is that enough to actually track what the customer is actually entitled to? So for what length of the period are they able to receive this maintenance service?
Part of their package. Yeah, so I was thinking about it for more of a long-term, kind of like their lifetime of being a customer. Um, if we want to link it to like a particular sale, then I would recommend also utilizing the service contract and
Hmm.
contract line item objects, and that way we can be more specific about different purchases of different levels for different orders.
Okay, okay. So you did mention also about the declarative lookup rollup summary DLRS. You said that for some reason, yes, I know we're just a little bit over. We are not able to have rollups on the account for all these objects, one of which is the opportunity, the other one is case, and then there was a custom object. Uh, are you sure about that?
So in particular, the service appointment, the bookings was one that needed to be rolled up. Service appointment through the standard data model is a many-to-many relationship with account. We cannot do a standard roll-up summary of service appointments on accounts.
What about the opportunities cases?
Um, Opportunities you can, cases, I'm not sure.
All right.